الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, today is the second Taraweeh. At the moment we will be going over and in our Taraweeh Salah 1¼ for the first 4 days until the 5th juz is finished. Thereafter, as we've been doing in the last couple of years, we'll be completing 1 juz a day, and the 29th night will be the completion of our Quran Sharif. So according to that, inshallah, we'll cover a few important points in the ayat that we have heard in the Taraweeh Salah. Yesterday we began Surah Baqarah. Surah Baqarah is the longest surah in the Quran Sharif itself. It's around 2.5 juz, 2.5 paras. Now, many virtues Allah Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned about Surah Baqarah. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that اقرأوا سورة البقرة في بيوتكم فإن الشيطان لا يدخل بيتا تقرأ فيه سورة البقرة. You know, many times we have this complaint that it feels like there's too much problems in our homes. There's no barakah in our home. There's no unity in our homes. There's no blessings in our homes. There's always disputes and fights and fallouts and, problems after problems after problems, financially and etc. And, we see at times as well that, at the time of purchasing a new home or moving into a new home or purchasing a new business or opening a new business, unfortunately, from our Muslims as well, they'll go through the whole struggle of having any, sort of grand opening with all of these influencers or local newspapers and cameras and media team and, decorations up and celebrations and parties and etc. However, because of distancing ourselves from the Quran and the Hadith, there's no barakah in those sort of activities. There's no barakah in those sort of activities. Why? Because they're not according to the Quran and the Sunnah. What does the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say in this Hadith? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving us a method of removing shaitan from our home, taking away shaitan from our. What does the shaitan do? Shaitan brings disputes and arguments and fallouts. He doesn't like unity. He likes disunity. And that's what he brings in our homes. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that recite Surah Baqarah in your homes. Recite Surah Baqarah in your home. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَا يَدْخُلُ بَيْتًا. Why? Because the shaitan does not enter that building wherever Surah Baqarah is recited. Wherever Surah Baqarah is recited, therefore the ulama explain that when we are opening our new home, opening our new businesses, instead of going through all the struggle of this preparing and going through the spending all of this money and etc., let's keep it very simple. Call those who can recite the Quran or yourself, or distribute the Surah Baqarah within yourselves and recite Surah Baqarah in that home. Inshallah, you will see that barakah in that life, in that home, and you will see that the unity in that home. And this is not necessarily only that you will do it once at the beginning and thereafter that's it, forget it. No, because the Surah Baqarah itself has a virtue. However, inside Surah Baqarah there's certain ayats that if they are recited, they are also means of protection from the shayateen. For example, in this Surah Baqarah we have Ayatul Kursi. We have the Ayatul Kursi. That itself there are so many benefits and virtues, and one of them is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explains that this is a means of protection for us, So this is one explanation and one hadith regarding Surah Baqarah. Now, Surah Baqarah, we read around first half of the surah itself in yesterday's Taraweeh Salah, and we read approximately the second half of the Surah Baqarah itself in the Taraweeh Salah today. So we started from the 177th verse today. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبْلَ الْمَشْرِقِ. Now in this, there's an indication towards the verse in the beginning of the second juz, where Rasulullah ﷺ is mentioned about Rasulullah ﷺ that he would look towards the sky about when the Muslims were facing Baytul Maqdis and praying Salah. For around 17 months that they were facing Baytul Maqdis to pray Salah. But Rasulullah ﷺ had this hope that soon we'll come back to the Kaaba itself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indicating towards this, that when the change of Qibla did take place, there was some disputes within people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that look, the Qibla is changed to the Kaaba. However, changing of direction and where you changing is not the main concern. What is the main concern and what brings piety within yourself, what makes you, pious is this. Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that man amana billahi wal yawmil akhir wal malaikati wal kitabi wal nabiyyin. Now this is got to do with our faith. This is got to do with our aqidah, where we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in the day of judgment, believe in the malaika, believe in the kutubs and the books that were revealed. We also believe in the day of judgment as well, and the other prophets as well. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. Now in this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought the huququl ibad, where we give from our wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us. And who do we give it to? We give it to our relatives, we give it to those who are orphans, those who are poor, those who are needy travelers, those who are beggars, for freeing captives, or these are the areas that where we can spend our wealth. Then وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَ الزَّكَاةَ وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us about huququllah, that you pray your salah, establish your salah, pay your zakat, and also the pledge that we made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Ahd al-Ast, reminding us about that pledge that we made, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator. Fulfill that pledge and the agreement that we made. And these people who have these qualities inside them, these are the truthful people. These are the ones who are mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammad Rahim mentions that in here, great aspect of our deen is mentioned just in this one verse. Great aspect. The aqidah is mentioned, huququllah is mentioned, and huququl ibad is mentioned. Ahmad Ali Lahori rahmatullahi alayhi, he says that the one way to look at the Quran, and the conclusion of the Quran comes in three forms. Khuda ki ibadat, Rasul ki ita'at, makhluk ki khidmat. Khuda ki ibadat, meaning you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fulfill the huquq of Allah, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasul ki ta'at. How do we do this? In the ways shown to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the third subject in the whole Quran is makhluk ibadat. I fulfill the rights of the creation. If we have these three aspects, we'll have the entire Quran in our life. So Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that this verse about aqidah, huququllah, the rights of Allah, huququl ibad, the rights of the creation. Now from here, we have many verses related to ahkam and rulings and commands, such as qisas, taking revenge. So, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum al-qisasu fil qatla. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about will, wasiyah. He talks about, other aspects of hajj, spending, hayd, divorce, marriage, iddat, jihad, mahar, and few other aspects of spending, transactions. So the rest of the surah have got many rulings. Many rulings have been discussed in the surah. Now one of this ayat which mentioned in the next side is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is mentioning about fasting. He's talking about roza and fasting. And fasting is such that it's not just only made compulsory upon us or made for us. Even the people before us, they had their own method of fasting as well. And this fasting, sometimes it feels a bit of a struggle for us that it's too long, one entire month that I have to fast. To make it easy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that ayyamam ma'dudat. It's only a few days. If you were to look 355 or 365 days, because in Islamic calendar, we have 10 days less. So 355 days, out of those 355, we only have to fast 29 or 30 days. The rest of the days, we can eat during the day, whenever we want. But just these 29 to 30 days, there are very few compared to the 355. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that this fasting which is made compulsory upon you, or made compulsory upon the people before, and also this is only a few days. Now one important point here, just today I asked one of our senior ustads that in this juz, in this part of the Quran, what point can I highlight? So he mentioned, our Sufis have mentioned, that two things, unfortunately, which the ummah is lacking on. And this is the fundamental of our religion, the pillars of Islam. One is salah and one is siyam. Salah and siyam, these are the two fundamental pillars of our religion. You know, the 5 pillars of Islam: siyam, which is fasting, and salah, which is our namaz. But many youngsters, many people, many Muslims, parents as well, are showing very less importance to this. Very less. They are lacking in this. They will use excuses in either to delay the salah or to completely miss the salah. They will take, give priorities to their businesses, to their luxury lives, or to their outings, and to all of these things. And they will have that, less importance to the salah, and they will delay it, or they will, miss their fasts as well. Women who are in the monthly periods, yes, they are excused from it, but they will just make up that excuse that I'm in the monthly period, I'm not going to be able to fast, or they will be going out from home in a fasting manner, but they will go out and eat somewhere with the other people around. So the aspect of the siyam and the aspect of salah is slowly coming out of the Muslims. Now imagine if the fundamental and the structure of our religion is fragile, is in such condition, what will happen to the entire structure of the deen? The entire structure of the deen will also collapse. So it's very important that we, wherever we are, we show importance to salah. Alhamdulillah, when we go to shopping, nowadays there's so many possibilities to pray our salah. There's no excuses. We go to Trafford, we go out on the service stations, wherever we are, there is a possibility of praying our salah within that time. So we make our timetable such, we plan our journey such that every salah is prayed either in the masjid. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, there are many masajids. Just go off the motorway, many motorways, come off the junction, and 5 minutes drive into the town, and there's a masjid nearby. So we have to plan according to that I've got 6 hours journey. If I was to travel for 6 hours, where will I be for this namaz, this namaz, this namaz? So I can stop on these places. And nowadays, you got these maps, and the maps have this feature that you're able to locate all the masajids already. With certain settings, that we already highlight the masjids around. So alhamdulillah, there's so many ways that we can, it's become difficult to miss the salah nowadays. It's become difficult to miss the salah. But that will only happen if we have Quran and the Hadith, and if we have the priority right. If we have the dini aspect in our life, then we will do it. It won't be such that we ask the madrasa students about Fajr Salah, my dad didn't wake up, my mom didn't wake up, so I didn't wake up. If you talk about them in the weekends, in the holidays, why were you in Jummah Salah? Or my mom said, I can't go on my own, so I missed it. So there's so many excuses. The children are telling us that our parents are doing this. Or why are you listening to music? Because my dad, is listening to music on the way to the masjid, on the way to madrasa. Or why have you got this haircut? My dad made me get me haircut. So the children, they don't see the practices of deen in their life, in our lives. So they are using us against us. On the day of Judgment, what we are going to face in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the correct understanding and the ability to put the importance of deen in our life and the importance of practicing deen in our life in order to preserve our iman and to preserve the iman of our children as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He discusses Ramadan and fasting in this ayat, then Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fil Quran. Then in the middle we have an ayat, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي. Then we have the next ayat, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ. So in this whole ruku, in the beginning of the ruku and the end of the ruku, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the month of Ramadan, fasting. Then He talks about i'tikaf and a few other masail of fasting as well. But in the middle, there's an extra ayat in the middle, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. Where all of a sudden Allah talks about dua. So He's talking about fasting and i'tikaf. In the middle, there's a verse of the dua. So the ulama explain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to show the importance of dua. How important dua is, and also to show that dua will make our matters easy in our lives. If we have a dua, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that man futiha lakum minkum babu dua futihat lahu abwabur rahmah. For whoever the door of dua is opened, it means the door of mercy is open for him. Meaning, if he has dua in his life, then just know that the door of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also open for him. What does that mean? That wherever he is, he's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now dua does not necessarily mean that we have to sit there, spend 15-20 minutes. Because, we all know how busy we are. We wake up, work, we come back, a few other commitments at home. we come for namaz, and then we go to sleep. There's so many, commitments that we have during the day that we find it difficult to spend 15-20 minutes to make dua. So to make it easier, dua doesn't necessarily mean that we have to sit for 15-20 minutes. Dua means that even if it's 1 minute dua, even if it's 1 minute dua, you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this dua kitab that we have in front of us, for example, a person wants, safety in his life. So what does he do? From the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have the word Ya Salam. That the one who's safe from all defects. Now here we ask for safety from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Anta Salam wa Minka Salam, Tabarakta Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram. That's it. So you got this dua in front of us, and you repeat it this couple of times, 1 minute dua is done. Now we pick another name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you link a dua. Now this kitab here in front of us has got the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with either dua from the Quran and the Hadith. And we have that in front of us. We're able to do 1 minute dua. We use that name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that manner. Then inshallah we will see that we are enjoying the dua so much that now we're able to spend